Hi, guys. Good morning. I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes, sir. Hi, good morning, sir.
Very good morning. Okay. Did you check that classroom for Power BI material? Did you get any chance to look into that?
Yes, sir. I checked, but only screenshots are there, sir.
Yes. Screenshots are there. So I've given a requirement. Okay. So let me open one of the file and I'll just explain something about it. Then you can try from your side. So if you take a first file, so in each use case, how I'm trying to give here is apart once you go through this material, I mean to say once you go through that recording, then you have to come to here. So then only you can understand, because this is having both together reporting plus Power Query is there in this use case. So here I'm saying I attached one Excel file for this all these use cases for most of them. Okay, so you have to use that particular Excel file to read the data. So here I'm expecting a sales and education. There's two data points I required, and you know already how we can format it. So since we are already aware of doing format, so I cannot keep each and everything in the note. So we have to skip something. So at higher level, I just gave here. If you go through the recording, if you completed already recording, then only can do this practice. So if you can do this, both together is going to be covered. So I given here requirement. Once you have created a report, once you have done that, by seeing the report, you have to give the answer for this. Identify which education is generating more sales. What type of education is having more sales and which education is having less sales. Just highest sales and lowest sales of the education, you have to mark them. So that is in the front end. Just this is for analysis. And the second one I have given here is apply required formatting for this column chart. So once you have seen this, you should understand how you can format this x-axis, y-axis, labels, all the formattings that we have come across in the regular session that you have to apply as part of this. And in the data side, you can see here, make sure to bring the data only if the customer owned 2 to 4 cars. So that means there is a data restriction. This is purely related to Power Query. In the Power Query, how to apply. Okay, and then explain about the column chart. The column chart I have given here. What is the purpose of the column chart? And we also talked about it to compare the numbers across the categories. We are going to use the column chart. Okay, so that is what I'm just trying to give here. You can just give 1 or 2 points. I already gave that particular note, so you don't need to worry about this, explain about the column chart. So you have to think about this first 4 parts. This is analysis, and this is a design change. This is also requirement. Okay, so these two are the main things that you have to identify and you have to do it.
Okay, sure, sir.
Okay, you got my point, right? So when I'm trying to prepare the data, I'm just trying to explain the Power Query here. What is the Power Query? Data cleansing, ETL activities that I'm giving, and about the Power Query I'm giving. For this particular requirement, what are the options that we are participating that I'm just trying to explain about them. And since we are taking data from the Excel file, I have given a Excel connector details also, how we can choose only required columns. So since we are having data filtering to restrict the data here, 2 to 4 cars. So I'm just talking about data filtering also, because This is also is part of that particular requirement. This is for reading purpose only. This are all we already know about all this stuff. But if you wanted to do this, then data filtering is participating, formatting is participating, and you have to give some, you have to take analysis on top of this visual. Okay, so that is how I just prepared the note.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So because if I give the same thing, then there will be no much use. So I wanted to go in a different approach. So I just gave so that we can also do some practice on it. Okay, so try to complete them. I have given 5, but there are all the use cases are there in my place up to 13. So once you have completed this 5, I will review them. Then I'll give rest of the 5. So like this, I'll give a use cases to you. That use cases is going to talk about complete that requirement.
Okay, sir. I will try.
Okay. And the next question is, so everyone able to see the recording, right? That is important for me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So if you're able, the SQL server also is there in the same place you can find. Okay, so you can go through them. I didn't upload this material yesterday's class, but I'll keep that today. Mostly I'll keep it on today.
Okay, sir.
And SQL comes only if you do practice. So that much difficult it is. Okay, so you have to do some practice, then only can get SQL. If you can do more, I can give more exercises also, even in SQL.
Okay, sir.
So I have a sample data, varieties of the databases I'm having. I'll give the database to you and I'll give a exercises. I'll give a question only, but you have to understand that question and you have to write a SQL code. So at least daily one I'll give and you just try attempting it. Okay, so once we started talking about this select statement, then I'm going to give it because select is very, very important for our BI developers and data engineers. So 80% is we are going to spend the time with only select. So once that is started, then I'm going to give 1 or 2 questions based on your interest. Then we'll see how you people are going to do. So whatever the database that I'm trying to take, on the same database, I don't give a exercise. I'll take a different database and I'll give a different exercise. Okay. So in the last session, what we discussed is we discussed about DDL, data definition language. If you want to define the object, if you want to create a table, or if you want to create any object in the database, we need to use DDL, data definition language, where we are having create, alter, and drop. These 3 we talked about it, the purpose of them, and we have seen how we can create it. Once you have created an object, let's take in a table. If you have a table, then table is going to be empty very starting. We have to feed the data into the table. In the business, in the real time, if you take any business, we are not going to be part of feeding the data into the business tables. We are going to be part of, if you're data engineer, then definitely it will be in different approach. I don't want to take that particular thing now. So just imagine feeding the data into the business tables is not our responsibility. This is purely related to application developers or SQL server developers or SQL developers. Application plus SQL developers both together is going to be responsible to bring the data into the tables. If you take a Java, so definitely they may have a experience with Java plus SQL. So if they have it, they can both together, they can do it because data has to come through the application. Data has to come through web application or mobile application, whatever it is. And if you take a Amazon, if you order the product, you're feeding all the details and then you're submitting your order. So that details are going to sit into the table. So the front end application is going to be designed by this Java, and the back end inserting the data by taking data from the farm into the table is going to be taken care by your SQL. So these two together, both together is going to be responsible to feed the data into the tables. Okay, so in order to work in this particular place, in order to feed the data into the table, either with Java or anything, we have to go with the DML operations. We have to go with the DML. So DML means data manipulation language. Data manipulation language, which is used to do three different operations. One is insert, update, and delete. These three are going to be done. These three are going to be done. So insert, update, delete, we are going to do it. So I don't recommend to keep more eye on this particular area, especially for the BI developers. But surely for data engineers, definitely it is required, because we are going to insert the data and we are going to update the data and delete also. Okay, so insert 100% we are going to touch, and update also we are going to do. So where exactly we are going to do, it's a different story, but I'm just giving a highlight here. Uh, Data engineers also, for data engineers, it's very, very important, but not for BI developers. But still, I just wanted to take you through, irrespective of a role. So if you wanted to feed the data, we are going to use insert. Insert is used to feed the data into the table. Insert is used to feed the data into the table. And I have given here a feed a single record into customer table. I have a customer table. Yesterday we have created a customer table, and I wanted to feed the data into that particular table. Only single record I wanted to feed it. If I wanted to feed a single record, or if you want to feed a data into the table, we are going to use the statement called insert. Insert into. Into what? Into the table. We're always going to insert the data into the table only. 99% we're going to feed the data into the table. Insert into table, and then this is the syntax that you have to remember and feed it. So once you habituated, then you can easily remember. Or even if you have an idea, if they are asking to feed the data, if it is any specific record, then you can directly go for insert. Okay, but these DML operations are not going to be done by everyone, because especially it has to come through the application only, not with directly. So mostly they don't give a permissions to feed it. If at all, if we are having a access to feed the data into the table, then this is how we are going to do it. Insert into customer, and then I'm just taking a values. Insert into table name, values. Here I'm just giving, before that you just observe how tables are there. Select star from table name. I'll talk about this. We have a more days discussion on only the select star from table name. Just make a connect. Go to this test, not testing. This is sales underscore DB that we have used. So I have a customer ID, customer name, customer location, customer gender, customer sales. So all these things you can see here, this 101 will go to customer ID, and Bhaskar will go to customer name, and Hyderabad will go to the location, and male will go to the gender, and sales will go to the customer sales. So for all these things, I'm just passing the value for each and every column. So if I'm wanted to pass value for each and every column of the table, then this is how we are going to do it. So this is the syntax we are going to give it. So if we go here in this way, values, then you have to pass all the values for each and every column. Now, if I execute this, just observe, select this statement alone and hit execute. Now one row is affected. Just select star from table name. Now you can see here, I'm having only one record, as we have loaded only one record. So after adding this record, the business is demanding to change some table structure. So the change is here, they wanted to add a column called customer age. So for now, here we have only these columns, but they're asking you to add one more column, that is customer age. So to add the customer age, you have to go in this particular place, something like this. So here we have to bring the customer age column. So how we are going to add is this customer age is going to be varchar. I'm just taking a varchar. You can have anything. Okay, so I'm just taking a varchar. You can take any kind of data type it is. You can even you can take a number also. I mean to say int you can take it. So in order to alter the table, we know already alter table name. So what you're trying to do, I'm just trying to add a new column to the existed table. I'm just going to take this as a int and I'm just going to execute it. Now it is added a new column. If I see the select star from table name, and you can find for first record, because the one record was already existed. Since this record was already existed and you are adding a new column, for whatever the number of records we are having in the table, after having some rows in the table, if you are adding a new column, for that column, we are going to get in nulls, blanks. We are not having the number for this. It's a null. So that you need to keep in mind. And feed a single record into customer table for all the columns. For all the columns I wanted to feed, and I'm just having one more record here. Just concentrate on this. For every column I wanted to feed, so 102 Raja, Chennai, mail and sales. Okay, and age also I'm giving now. If I don't have a age, if I try to feed the data now, previously we have a values up to five values were there, and we were able to load the data at that particular point of time. But now if I re-execute this, it's going to fail. So most of you is going to face this issue. And when you face this issue, you can think that you're not supplying the required values to the table. You're not passing. The number of columns and the number of values that you're providing is not same. So in that case, you need to cross verify. So here I'm just passing the age also here. Let's execute now. Now you can see the row is affected. If I see the select star from table name again, now you can see a second record is also added. And third record here, if you are not interested to pass a value to any column in the SQL, we are going to use null. We are going to pass null if you are not interested to pass the data for any column. Just observe here, this 103 will come to customer ID, Kumar will come to customer name, and I don't want to pass a value to this location gender. So this is going to be null here. If you're not interested, then you can pass the null. I don't want to pass the value. I don't know the location. I don't know the gender. Just imagine something like that. If that is the case, then you can pass the null. So for whatever the column, you're not required to pass the value. For that, you can take a null and you can pass it. Now one more row is affected. And if we see again, select star from table name, and we can have all the data here. And write a SQL statement to feed the data for required columns. So in this particular statement here, in this particular statement, I'm interested to pass the value for this and this. I'm not interested to pass the value for this and this value, and I'm interested for this. So you can specify only these columns only to feed the value. Let's say, for example, my table is having 100 columns, but I wanted to feed the values only for 2 columns. Then what about the 98 columns? 98 columns, you have to give a null, comma, something like this. This is typo, waste of time for typing. So to avoid it, what you can do is you can feed the data only for 2 columns. So rest of the 98 columns are going to be null by default. So how exactly it is going to be happen in this particular use case I have given here. Write a SQL statement to feed the data for required columns. So whatever the columns that you required, that you can specify in the list of columns. So right after the table, we are giving a directly values here, but instead of values, if we can give a required columns in this place, then you can follow in the same order. Whatever the order we are having in this particular inside the braces, that order you have to follow to pass the values. So I'm just taking a customer ID first, and then customer sales, and then customer name. So I'm not following the table order. This is a table order. If you don't specify the list of columns, then you have to pass the values in the table order. If you specify the list of columns, then you have to pass the values in the your list of order. Now, if I execute this, I'm just passing the values for 3 columns. Rest of the columns are going to be null. Just execute it and see the select star from table name. Now you can see here 104. Name is Siri and customer location is null. Gender is null. Age is null. So for whatever the columns you wanted to pass the value, you can list out the columns right after the table, and then you can go for the values. So these values should follow the order of these columns. So this is how we can feed a single record for all columns, for required columns we have seen. Any question as of now?
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. And if I wanted to feed multiple records, how you are going to feed it? Now let me show you that as well so that you can understand how exactly it is going to be there. Feeding multiple rows into the table. The same table I'm taking, and I wanted to feed the data in the same order. I mean to say, I'm just keeping the values for only specific columns and the values. So when you go for multiple values, then you can write the first row comma separated and multiple rows. So every row is going to be separated with the comma. So with comma separator, we can keep it here. Now I'm just going to insert multiple records here. Let's execute it. Now 2 rows are affected. And if we see this select star from table name again, now we can find Somo and Sandy. So up to 106, we are having the records now. Okay. And once you have fed the data into the table, either with single record or multiple records, then if you want to read the data, then we are going to use the select star from table name. That is what we are saying it for every record that we came across it. So this is one of the approach to feed the data into the table. So in the interview, they may not ask you how we can feed the data into the table with insert statement because it's very basic, and for freshers, there is a chances to ask, but for if you are having some experience, then definitely they're not going to ask surely. There is a one more alternative way also is there to feed the data, to feed all the records or to feed multiple records based on your requirement. You can do it. So what I'm trying to do here is I wanted to feed all this data. This data is there in the table called customer table. This data is there in the customer table. I wanted to bring this data into another table. I wanted to create another table. That table I wanted to say is customer data. Here the table name is customer and I wanted to create a new table with the same columns. I wanted to bring the same columns. So same columns also here and data also I wanted to load it. So if you wanted to do this with SQL, if you wanted to do it, how you are going to do it? If I wanted to take all the records from here into this table, I can take it. Or if I wanted to take only few records from this table, I can take only few records from this table. So just observe how I'm going to do it. I'm just creating a new table with the same structure. Let's execute it. Now table is created and customer data and yeah. So these two tables, if you see, column structure is same. You can see here. This data should go to here. This should go here. Something like this. So customer data is not having the data. I wanted to bring all the data from the customer table to customer data table. So how you are going to do it? That is what I'm just going to do it with the help of insert statement only. Insert into, you can see, feeding data into customer data from the customer table. How can you feed the data from one table to another table? This is definitely an interview question. By using insert into statement, we can feed the data from one table to another table. But here you have to use the select statement also. Insert into select statement. Then only you can get it. So here what I'm trying to do is here I'm just writing insert into table name. Then I'm just specifying the list of columns here. You have to specify the list of columns. You have to specify the list of columns. The same list of columns with the same list of columns, whatever the list of columns that we are having here, that same columns are equivalent. We can say it's not exactly naming standard. I wanted to say the same order of the columns or same data that you need to bring with the help of select statement. If I execute this statement, I should get the data. So I'm able to get this data with the help of this select statement. I've given a list of columns here. Instead of giving a star, the star indicates all columns from the table. Instead of that, I'm just specifying the list of columns here. So before executing this insert statement, you have to make sure this select statement is executable. If this is executable, then you have to select this entire statement. This entire statement should go for inserting the data into the table by taking data from this table. So from one table to another table, it will go and feed the data. Just observe, hit on execute. Now 6 rows are affected. 6 rows are affected. Now let me execute this select star from customer data. Previously, we were not having the data. Now you're going to have the data in both of the tables. You can see. So this is a customer data table and this is the customer table. So this is how we can feed the data from one table to another table. Or you can also insert the data with single record for all columns for required columns. And we can feed multiple records even with insert statement also. But if you want to insert the data from one table to another table, then this is how we are going to do it. So this is about insert. Any question, guys, with insert statement?
No, sir.
Okay. So after inserting, sometimes we may need to update the data. We may require to update the data as per our business requirement. Okay, so as for data engineers, it's very important, especially when we have a control table. If you wanted to feed the data into the control table, or if you wanted to update the data into the control table, then definitely we should know about this DML operations. And update statement is very, very dangerous operation. Without condition, you are not supposed to do update. So because of that reason, they don't give a access for each and every person, as we are going to have a complications with update statement. Of course, insert also. Especially for production, we don't get access. Okay, so only for one or two people only is going to have a access to feed the data or to update the data. I mean to say DML operations will be possible one or two persons in the production. And if you have a little more experience, you may get access for UAT, but development we can have it. So there will be no impact if they give a access on the development side, but depends on their requirement and role is going to be handled. Okay, so if at all, if you get a chance to update, if you're having access and if you want to update the data, then we are going to use the statement called update. The second statement is update. So we can modify the data if you have a update statement here. We can modify it. Updating a single record. This is very, very important. We don't update all the records. I don't recommend. I don't recommend. And here we are going to face an issue, the performance kind of things. Even if you go for Power BI also, I'll talk about it. When the time comes, there is a temporary tables. I'm going to talk about temporary tables and common table expressions, which one will give a more performance and which one will give less performance. Okay, so if you wanted to update the data, what are the best approaches to update if I have a millions of records in the table? That I'll talk about when time comes. So this is the syntax here in order to update the data into the table. Update table name. So you have to specify what is the name of the table in order to update it. You have to specify what is the name of the table to update the data. Then set. I wanted to set a value for the column. So for which column I wanted to update is customer age equals to 100. I wanted to keep customer age equal to 100, where customer ID equals to 101. If I don't have this condition, this is a condition. And if you remember in Power Query, we talked about data filtering. So data filtering in Power Query, we have done the way we have done the data filtering in the Power Query. In the same way here also, we are going to have it. So in order to do the data filtering in SQL, we are going to use where clause. Okay, so we are going to talk about this little more details when I'm going to talk about with the select statement. So till then, we just imagine this is one condition here. So if this condition is satisfied, then only update this record. If I don't have a condition, just keep in mind when you're doing any update in the real time, check do we have a condition or not. If you don't have a condition, then definitely that makes very big problem. So whenever you're going to insert, whenever you're going to update the record, make sure to have a where clause. Now I'm just going to execute it. Now if I show you here, you're going to have a customer age is going to be 100 for customer ID is 101. You can see here 100 is there. Previously it was null. Now it is having 100. So updating a single record for single column. Now, updating multiple columns also is possible. You may get a chance to do it. I came across many times. Update table name. Update table name. Then you can specify the what values you wanted to do for each and every column. So here I'm taking customer age is 36 and customer sales is 5,000. Just observe for 102 what is the number that we are having. So I'm just going to do that particular change. So here you can see customer age, customer age, I'm going to make this as a 36. This is going to be 36 and customer sales is 1000 is there. Now I wanted to make that as a 5000 here only for 102. So if that is the case, then you have to keep where customer ID equals to 102 and then you have to keep in the list of columns in the set. So customer age equals to 36 and customer sales equal to 5000. So I'm just going to execute this. Now if we see the select star from table name again, now you can see here 5000 is there and 36 is there. And updating a single column for multiple rows without condition. This is dangerous. If I go and do this, what happens? You just observe. All these columns are going to make a null. Same value will come if you don't give a condition. So this is not recommended. Okay, so very, very dangerous operation it is. If I execute it, you can see, since it is our own practice database, I'm just doing it. If it is event development database also, I never do this kind of statement in the real time. That is very dangerous. Okay. And now we are having all the nulls. All the nulls we are having here. So this is about update statement. And if you want to remove the data, I inserted wrong record. I wanted to take it out. I wanted to remove the data from the table. All the data, all the rows from the table. Or I wanted to remove specific record, that record is wrongly inserted. If you feel that, then you have to use delete statement. So delete is used to remove the data from the table. Delete is used to remove the data from the table. Now just observe how I'm going to delete the data from the table. The syntax here you can see, if you want to remove all the rows from the table, sorry, let's go with this one record. Write a SQL statement to remove single record. This is very important. So you have to be very you have to be very careful what record you are removing. Which record you are removing, that you have to be very clear about it. I wanted to remove 101. Then you can specify here delete from table name, customer data. And the condition is where customer ID equals to 101. Where customer ID equals to 101. That means I wanted to remove only 101 record. Now I have all the records up to 106. Once I execute this particular statement, only this record alone is going to be removed. Rest of the records are going to be available in the table. Just observe. Select this statement and hit execute. One row is affected. That means one row only is deleted. Let's execute this select star from table name. Now you can see there is no 101 record. There is no 101 record. If you want to remove multiple records from the table, you can also have a multiple records with condition also. Okay, so depends on the condition that you may have a multiple records. If you want to remove all the rows from the table, not deleting multiple records, all the rows from table, how you are going to do is, if you take out this condition, then ultimately it is going to remove all the rows from the table. Just observe. Delete from customer data. Now 5 rows are affected. Let's execute select star from table name. Now I am not having any record in the table. Okay, so this is how we can do it. And I wanted to talk about this select statement. To talk about the select statement, I need to have these two tables I'm going to use frequently. And later I'm going to take a different databases and different tables also. But for initial stage, to make you understand, I'm going to use this department and employee tables to talk about the third language, that is DQL, data querying language. We have seen DDL, we have seen DML, and we are going to talk about this DQL. This is very, very, very important for everyone. So 80% of the time you're going to spend with the DQL only. So if you're strong enough in the DQL, then you're going to be easy to clear the interviews for data analyst or for data engineers. So for that, I'm just going to create these tables. So drop table, only if the table exists, it's going to drop, otherwise it is not going to drop. Just execute them just for creating a tables. So I wanted to create an employee table here. You can see. I'll share this script with you and you just copy this script and execute up from here, from this particular line to here. So all this insert statement, multiple records I'm just doing here. I'm just inserting the data, just execute it. A table is created. And I'm just feeding the data here, multiple records. I'm just feeding into the employee table. Just observe. Let's execute it. Now 12 rows are there in the employee table. In the same way, I'm creating a department table also. Department table is having department number, D name, and location. Let's execute it. If you remember, in Power Query, we came across data combining. I told you there, we need to have a SQL server. And if you have these two tables, then you can practice data combining with the Power BI also. So we have seen how we can read the data from the table by using Power Query. So I'm just feeding some sample data into the department table. Let's execute it. 4 records are affected. So you don't worry about all this insert statement. You just straight away go and execute them. You will get the data into the tables. Now you can see if I execute this, select star from table name from both employee and department, and you can see the data here. I have a both records, both tables are there here. I have a employee table. I have a department table. This is employee table. And this is department table. These two tables are having common column. You can see it. So data combining is possible only if the two tables are having same column between the two tables. So that we discussed already. Again, we are going to talk about that in the SQL also. But these two tables are required for further practice. There is a very important interview question that you are going to face. What is the difference between delete and truncate? Delete and truncate. This is interview question. So delete is used to remove the data from the table. With the condition we can remove, without condition also we can remove. That is what we have seen. So delete from table name. So that means this is going to be without condition. So when the moment you keep the where, then there is a condition. So that is what I'm saying. With the condition means where should be there. Without condition means no where in the delete statement. So that is about your delete. And when you use the delete, it removes row by row. So one by one, it is going to remove. Record by record is going to be removed. So when it is going to remove a record by record, definitely it is going to degrade the performance. If the business requirement demands to remove specific records, then definitely I recommend you to go with only delete. And you can see here, if the requirement demands to remove based on the condition, then use delete only. If your requirement is demanding to remove the data, then you can remove. If the requirement demands with the condition, based on condition, then definitely you have to go with only delete only. And if table is having an identity column, so what is this identity column? We'll come across that. If table is having identity column, then value will not reset. The value is not going to reset. Identity column means surrogate key. Okay, so it is going to generate the sequence numbers. Identity column is used to generate the sequence numbers automatically. In SQL Server, we have a identity column to generate the sequence numbers. So in the truncate, the truncate is used to remove the table without condition. We cannot give a condition when you go for the truncate. There is no option to provide the condition. That means if the requirement demands conditional removing, then you cannot use the truncate. In that case, you have to go and use the delete only. It removes all the data at one shot. It removes all the data at one shot, so definitely it improves the performance. It will be used when you implement full loading, especially this is important for data engineers. So when they're doing a full loading, when they're doing a full loading FTL, I mean to say FTL or FL, we can say it. FL means full loading. FTL means full tank loading. Okay, so this kind of loadings we are going to use truncate before loading it in all the ETLs. If the table is having identity column, then value will be reset to 0. It is going to reset if you use the truncate. But if you use delete, then identity column is not going to reset because you will be having the data. Even if you remove all the data also, it's not going to reset. So these are a lot differences. Just remember these points when they ask in the interview. Okay, so in the next session, I'm going to talk about DQL. We are going to start about it. This is very, very important for BA developers. Of course, for data engineers also. Any question, guys, before stopping?
No, sir. For SQL also, please assign some assignments.
Definitely, definitely. I'll give the exercises.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, then I'm stopping here. We'll see on Monday. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.